The year is 175 AD. A devastating plague is ravaging the Roman Empire. Barbarian tribes are invading at the borders. And within the government itself, treacherous plots are brewing in the shadows. On the throne at that time is the most powerful man in the world, Marcus Aurelius. So, in his private journal, what did he write to overcome all of it? He didn't write about how to gain more power or how to win more battles. He wrote about one thing and one thing only: how to be a better person in the middle of a collapsing world. And as it turns out, his 5 core principles 2,000 years later are still the most accurate map for any of us seeking peace, inner strength, and true freedom. That map from Marcus Aurelius has never been more necessary than it is right now. Because just like in his time, we are living in the middle of a storm. But our storm doesn't come from swords and plagues. It comes from something far more subtle: overload. Have you ever felt it? That sense of being overwhelmed by the endless choices for self-improvement? The modern world has turned the journey of personal growth into a vast supermarket, a place that is dazzling but utterly chaotic. Imagine you walk into that supermarket. At the entrance is the shiny, best-selling 7 Habits of Highly Effective People aisle. A little further in, you see the flashing neon sign for the law of attraction. Turn another corner, and there's a long line of people waiting to buy The Power of the Subconscious Mind. Every book, every course, every podcast, every video promises to change your life, to give you the master key to happiness. You pick up a book, read a few pages, then put it back down. You listen to a podcast, feel inspired for 30 minutes, and then immediately forget it. You push an empty shopping cart from aisle to aisle, overwhelmed by thousands of colorful products, each one screaming, "Pick me!" And then, after hours of wandering, you leave the supermarket. But your cart is still empty. Worse, you feel more tired, more confused, and more exhausted than when you started. This is the silent tragedy of our time. Psychology calls it the paradox of choice. When faced with too many options, instead of feeling free, our brains become paralyzed. We are so afraid of making the wrong choice that in the end, we make no choice at all. Add to that another invisible enemy: decision fatigue. Every day, we are forced to make hundreds of trivial decisions: what to eat, what to wear, which email to answer first. Our mental energy, like a battery, is slowly drained. By the end of the day, when we need to make the most important decision, the one for ourselves, that battery is completely dead. And on top of it all, we are surrounded by a culture that glorifies busyness. A culture that tells us we must constantly optimize, constantly run faster, constantly do more. We become obsessed with getting better, so much so that we forget how to simply be good. We fail to realize that we don't lack information. We are drowning in information. The problem isn't that we're missing a map. The problem is that we have too many maps, and they all point in 1,000 different directions. So, in the midst of this chaotic maze, how do we find the right path? How do we cut through the noise and listen to the voice within? The Stoics don't give us another map. They give us a compass, an internal operating system to find our own way, no matter how chaotic the world outside becomes. And that operating system is built on the 5 foundational principles we are about to discover. That compass is Stoic philosophy. But don't think for a second that this is some complex, abstract theory. Think of it as an operating system for your mind. An operating system that doesn't teach you what to do in every situation, but teaches you how to think in every situation. It is programmed on 4 unbreakable pillars, known as the 4 virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The 5 principles we're about to explore are the practical applications of this operating system. The first and most important principle, the dichotomy of control. This is the foundation of all tranquility. In life, there are only 2 types of things, those we can control and those we cannot. We control our thoughts, our actions, and our choices. We do not control the weather, what others think of us, or the past. Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of the greatest philosophers, said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." Pause and think about that. The ultimate power lies not in the event, but in the space between the event and our response. That power is our judgment. Trying to control what is beyond your grasp is like trying to command the rain to stop. This is the source of all our suffering. The second principle, Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This isn't negative thinking, this is a mental vaccine for the mind. Each morning, take 1 minute to imagine the things that could go wrong during the day. Missing a meeting, being criticized, getting stuck in traffic. The purpose isn't to worry, but to strip these events of their power to shock you. When they actually happen, your mind is prepared, and you can calmly say, "I foresaw this." This is how the Stoics practiced courage and temperance every single day. The third principle, Memento Mori, remember you will die. This isn't a morbid thought. It is a reminder to live fully. Remember you will die. This phrase doesn't make us fearful. It helps us eliminate the trivial. Does that petty argument over a parking spot still matter if this were your last day? Would you still procrastinate on speaking words of love to your family? Memento Mori is the compass that points toward what truly matters. The fourth principle, Amor Fati, a love of fate. This is the evolution of acceptance. It's not just about enduring adversity, but loving it as an indispensable part of your life. Lost your job? That's not the end. It's an opportunity to find a new path. A broken relationship? It's a profound lesson that helps you grow. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, deeply influenced by the Stoics, said that the formula for human greatness is Amor Fati. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" And the fifth principle, a powerful tool to regain perspective, the view from above. When you feel overwhelmed by your personal problems, practice this visualization exercise from Marcus Aurelius. Imagine you are flying high above, looking down at your house, your city, then your country, then the entire earth. From that perspective, how small do your problems seem? This exercise helps you gain objectivity, shrink your ego, and connect with the larger picture of humanity. It reminds us that in the grand flow of the cosmos, our anxieties are often not as monumental as they feel. These 5 tools are now in your hands. They seem simple: a hammer, an anvil, a quenching bucket. But here is the cruel truth no one tells you. Having the blacksmith's tools does not make you a blacksmith. And this is the greatest challenge. You are not a soft piece of clay, easily molded. You are a piece of brittle steel, hardened over decades in the fire of habit, of unconscious reflexes, of nameless fears. You cannot change its shape by sheer will alone, the most fatal mistake most people make. They try to hammer this steel while it's cold. They try to apply all 5 principles at once, expecting a miraculous change overnight. And what is the result? The steel doesn't bend, it cracks. And you give up, believing the tools are ineffective, or worse, believing that you are a failure. So what does the wise blacksmith do? They do not rush. They heat just one corner of the steel. They understand that to reshape, there must first be the heat of focus. Instead of trying to be a perfect Stoic, pick one principle, just one. The one you feel you need most right now. It could be the dichotomy of control to deal with anxiety, or Memento Mori to to fight procrastination. Make that your fire. Then they don't use a sledgehammer. Instead of mighty, earth-shattering blows, they begin with small, deliberate taps. You don't need to meditate for an hour a day. You just need to take 2 minutes to practice the circle of control exercise before you start your work. You don't need to live as if you'll die tomorrow. You just need to place a stone on your desk and ask yourself, am I wasting this moment? Those are the small, consistent taps day after day. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, is the proof. He wasn't born a perfect sword. He was once a wealthy merchant. One day, a storm sank his entire fleet, and he lost everything. He washed ashore in Athens, broke and desperate. But instead of cursing his fate, he walked into a bookstore, read a book about Socrates, and began a new journey. His philosophical quest didn't start from a moment of grand enlightenment, but from a disaster and a small decision: to read a book. So, accept that you will fail. There will be days when your blade is bent, when it's chipped. But don't throw it away. Pick it up, heat it again in the fire of your determination, and keep hammering. Your journey is not to create a flawless sword. No blade in this world is without its scars. The goal is to forge a resilient blade, a blade that knows when to be sharp and when to be flexible, a blade that can bend but will never break. And so, our journey comes to an end. We started in a chaotic supermarket of advice where the noise drowned out our own voices. We walked through the truth of why we feel so exhausted, and then discovered a liberating truth. The problem isn't a lack of solutions, but the lack of a proper operating system for the mind. These 5 principles are not rigid rules. They are the tools in the artist's forge, and that artist is you. The greatest work of art you will ever create is your own life. A life shaped not by chance, but by deliberate choice. And the ultimate goal of this art is not a life without problems, without pain. That is a fantasy. The goal, as the Stoics called it, is eudaimonia, a word that's hard to translate but can be felt. It is a state of flourishing, a deep fulfillment that comes from knowing that no matter what storms may come, you stood firm, grounded in your own dignity, courage, and wisdom. And now I challenge you. Not a grand challenge, but an invitation. For the next 7 days, choose one of these 5 principles and make it your companion. Not all 5, just one. Heat it in your fire of focus and make those small hammer taps every day. Write down how you feel. See what changes. A journey of 1,000 miles always begins with a single step. I want to end with one final question, and I truly want to read your answer in the comments below, because this isn't just a video, it's a conversation. Which of these 5 Stoic principles speaks to you most powerfully right now in this season of your life, and why? Share your story. Because in the forge of life, we are not alone.